podiatrist here at Silicon Valley for 20 years. Started here when I was 10. We'll talk a little bit today about one of the more common things that I see as a foot doctor, which is heel pain, in particular from the injured athletes in our area. Heel pain probably affects 90 to 95% of our population here in America, due to a couple reasons of we're just on our feet a lot. We're on our feet more now than we were even 20 years ago. Our population is getting older, people are working longer, and because of that, we're getting more and more heel pain. Common injuries that we see with running in particular, I can't reach up there, but if you can see this as plantar fasciitis, which is heel pain, stress fractures, tendonitis, shin splints, overuse syndromes, digital trauma, and ingrown toenails. I'll kind of address each of those as we go along. And if you can't hear me, just raise your hand. Get a microphone and talk a little louder. A little bit of anatomy of the heel before we get started. This is kind of like a side view of the heel. Here's the heel bone. There's the talus. Here's the leg bone that goes up into the ankle, going down to the foot. This big red thing here, this is called the plantar fascia. What that is, it's a big supporting ligament on the bottom of the foot. And its sole purpose is to keep this nice little arch that we have up into the foot. And what happens is, as time goes on, we start losing the arch in the foot. We start losing the natural arch that we were born with. And it puts more and more strain on the bottom of the heel here as time goes on. I've had it. I see this about every hour of the day as a foot doctor. Without a doubt, it's one of the more common things I see as a foot doctor. And fortunately, it's also one of the more treatable things as a foot doctor. It affects about 95% of the population, like I stated. It's associated with overuse, or people are just on their feet a lot training for races and such. It usually occurs in the first step in the morning. As I stated, that first step when you get out of bed, that ligament contracts overnight. You go to step out in the morning, it's just like, oh my God, you know. You start grabbing the wall or furniture, trying to take the pressure off that area. But that's the most common first symptoms, is that pain on ambulation in the morning. Does anybody have this, by the way? We have to ask. Okay. So you're here. Once again, pain and ambulation in the morning, sometimes as the day progresses, typically worse during a sudden weight gain. I want to spend a little bit of time on that. Often I see this a lot with a lot of pregnant ladies during their 7th or 8th month of pregnancy when they start putting on a lot of weight. The interesting thing about this, and you'll know more about this than any family practice guy now, but the interesting thing about the reason why your foot gets longer, you go up shoe size in pregnancy. On the bottom of the foot, the cartilage is made out of the same type of cartilage that holds the pubic bone together. And during pregnancy, when the hormones relax that pubic bone, it also relaxes the bottom of the foot, and the foot gets bigger and longer. And I think we're more in primary care time. The weekend warriors. A sudden increase in daily activity. That's my wife, by the way, she runs. And my dog. Runners suddenly increase their miles due to upcoming races. Of course, new shoes that you're not used to wearing could also aggravate it. Again, sudden weight gain and running on a different terrain. Whoever ran on a road, they're always banked like this. They're not a flat surface, so you'll run on it, you're constantly running and shifting your weight onto the heel. Improper shoe gear. Probably one of the common things I get asked in the office is like, how often should I change my shoes? And this is like a little test they developed back in the 70s where on the right there, you crunch down your shoe, you start losing the integrity of the shoe, even though it looks okay. It should only bend at the forefoot area like this. Usually my runners, I usually say replace them about every 6 months, perhaps about every 300 to 400 miles. Even though they look okay, again, you do that shoe test, it's just going to collapse down. Shoes are relatively cheap right now. You can get a good pair of running shoes for 50 to 60 bucks that are very serviceable. It's a good investment to keep your foot healthy as it can be. But it's also the most important thing that we do. What they look like on X-ray. As I was pointing out there, it looks like, oh, I got this spur. Again, some of these words you're not going to understand. This is meant for residents, not the general public. But this big spur develops. The ligament attaches all along this area and then pulls right on the heel right here. It causes this big spur. When you look at that and you look and say, geez, that really looks painful. That's not what's causing the pain. The pain comes from the ligament pulling. It's not from that obvious spur that you see. That's just an incidental finding you see in the X-ray. I mean, if you took an X-ray with all of you in the room here, I would guess to say 95% of you are going to have that spur on there. But not everyone has this problem. Okay. Again, pathophysiology. Pathophysiology just means like, what is the pathology behind what causes this? Again, the subcalcaneal or below the heel stress causes these little micro tears in that ligament in the bottom of the heel. The spur may develop, but not implicated as the primary cause, as I just stated. One study indicated only 10% of the spurs on plain film X-ray were symptomatic. Well, that goes without saying, as I just said. If you take an X-ray of 90% of you will only have it. This is an interesting slide. This is what your foot looks like from the back. If I was to sit here and watch you run, this is what your heel will look like as you're coming past it. Pronatory, again, if I'm speaking over and I just stop me, I'll shut up. Pronatory means is the way your foot rolls in. Instead of walking nice and straight, your foot starts to roll in a little bit. In this statement, don't pay attention to that. That's not important. Treatment. Again, this is probably is the most common thing I see as a foot doctor. And the treatment, this is to keep you going. You know, it's not to take you out of your activity or your sport. It's when we assign an alternate activity. So if you're a runner, I'm going to put you on a bike for a while. We'll start some physical therapy for a period of time. Modulation of foot beard means I'm going to put you on a different type of running shoe. But again, to keep you in your activity. Physical therapy is wonderful. Custom orthotics. What a custom orthotic is, we take a plaster impression of your foot, or both feet. We send it to a company and they make you a custom insert according to the cast that I take. And what that does is it takes the pressure off the bottom of the foot by that arch being remolded and redone to the orthotic itself. Injections I do about half the time. Everyone's afraid of the injections. I think they're wonderful because I can take you out of pain within 15 seconds. And you'll be out of pain for about 2 to 3 weeks, which is plenty of time to get your orthotic back. Strapping is something that athletic trainers do. I don't typically do in the office. So far, does anybody have any questions? We're going to have a question and answer later, but.
You said injection, is that cortisone?
It is a steroid, but not cortisone. They call it Camelot, but it is a steroid.
And it's a limited amount per year?
Yeah, I usually can give about 3 injections per year in one spot. I've never given 3 injections in one spot, ever. You know, one maybe 2.
Is that the same thing you get in the knee?
No, that's a different steroid. Somebody had their hand up over on the side. No. Don't be afraid to ask questions. I mean, if you ever knew me, I grew up in Tinley Park. I'm not anything. I'm not from Northwestern. I don't, you know.
I have a question.
Just like everyone else.
The orthotics, once you get them, do you have them in all of your shoes? You have to wear them all the time?
I don't recommend them all the shoes. I recommend the shoes that you're on most of the time, which would be like your running shoes or your work shoes, whatever. because often people want to wear dress shoes for church or something like that. Shoes for dress or weddings, you're only going to be in for a couple hours. You know, live your life, you know, don't worry about your orthotics at that point. It's the shoes that you're wearing day in and day out that they want you to wear. When you're shopping, when you're exercising, that's what you really need it for.
How often should you replace your orthotics?
Every 2 to 3 years, 3 being the most. I say it's about every time you get your eye exams. Only because your prescription changes and usually gets better. And the orthotics themselves, even though they look okay, you know, I usually say just change them out because it's just going to make you feel better. You know, 50% of the people after about a year don't have to wear the orthotics anymore because the symptoms go away. 50% do. I've worn them for 15 years. And not because I'm in any pain, just I know it makes my foot feel better. It keeps the pain away. You know, and I've encouraged people just to keep wearing them. It just helps.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
You're talking about custom orthotics. What about the kind that you order the podiatrist and they heat them up and then you stand on and stand?
The heat molds?
Yeah, is that considered custom?
Those are
That's
kind of,
really custom.
not really. Those are just the heat molds. Well, it's better than nothing, but not much. No, they're okay. I mean, it depends. You know, everything depends on the patient. You know, if you've been on your, yeah. Sometimes the pain just becomes so bad that you're like, we need to fix this. You know? Often I see the patient after they have tried everything that they can find at Walmart and Costco and their neighbor, and they just give it up. You know. And, physical therapy. I employ physical therapy in about 90% of my patients, a couple times a week for at least 3 weeks. And what they do is to get the foot moving again, because often with heel pain is that the foot begins to get locked up because all the ligaments and tendons, they're trying to splint the heel from moving because it hurts so bad. So it's the exact opposite of what we need to have done to get that foot moving again. The therapy is just wonderful for this. And even though you're at physical therapy, they often will give you exercises to do at home because you walk every day, and then they're going to have you do exercises in the morning and at night to also keep the ligament free and moving. I'm sorry.
Does, if you have plantar fasciitis, does that affect the Achilles tendon?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So if you have plantar fasciitis, can it affect the Achilles tendon where you have a rupture or something?
I've never seen anybody rupture it because it just hurts so bad they get off of it. You know, rupture usually occurs from traumatic event.
I had it in one foot for a long time, and then one day I was walking in the house and got this huge pain.
Pop.
I guess it pulled off the heel.
Heel.
Yeah, I guess that's what happened.
You didn't get an
Could that have
injection?
been a result of having plantar fasciitis?
Yeah, I would absolutely. Yeah, because you're.
Absolutely.
Are you treating it right now? Is it being treated right now?
But the Achilles tendon, that was like 4 years ago
Oh,
in
okay.
December, so that's pretty much healed, but I don't have the other foot, so I want to be sure I'm taking care of it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's, you know, we do, the average human being that doesn't exercise right now is averaging about 5,000 steps a day, which is about a half a mile. You know, that's just walking around. It's interesting, you know, these people that do exercise, like my wife she gets up at 3:30 in the mornings at the gym by 4:30. And she comes home by 6 and she goes, I got one of those Fitbit things for Easter. She goes, look, I've already done 15,000 steps at 6 a.m.
I'm a foot doctor and I have it.
Somebody else had her.
Just wanted to know, if you're handing out golf balls,
Oh.
what is the best exercise for the feet?
golf ball is more like a massage, you know, for the bottom of the foot, just kind of massages that ligament on the bottom there. Kind of massages that ligament on the bottom, makes it feel better, doesn't really do anything to address, you know, the reason why you're getting it, just, it's almost like somebody rubbing your foot. You know, it does feel good, you know.
But as far as an exercise, a physical therapist would recommend anything special that really works well?
Stretchings, you know, yeah. And we call them stair stretches. It's where your foot just kind of stands on the end of the stair and just drops the heel and stretches that for about 15 seconds. They often recommend that a lot. It seems to help. Sure. Go back here. My nephew on the right, that's not me on the left, that's my brother. My nephew on the right is a runner at Southern Illinois. And he ran like a 4:20 mile. You know, basis, so to run a mile, 4 minutes. Well, I don't drive that fast. You know, and he will be joining me in practice in 3 years. I'm on vacation. Anybody have any questions so far? Sir?
To that for flat feet, that there's two types. Remember I heard that there's two types of flat feet. One type you can actually exercise and fix it with exercise. Another kind of like requires surgery. Is that true?
Yeah, but usually only in children before they reach developmental maturity. We do address that. Like I said, I've been in practice for 22 years now, and I can count the amount of times that we call these surgeries. We call them medial column corrections, where we go in and start fusing the bones on a medial column. You know, the patient had polio, you know, so she had underlying causes for it. I don't recommend it. I can usually get this better with physical therapy and orthotics, you know, no matter what the underlying causes. There's a lot of other conditions for flat foot, you know, paralytic flat foot from injuries to the spinal cord, neurological injuries in particular. But that's beyond the scope of what this is. Most common cause though is genetic flat foot. Yes, ma'am?
So the pronation of the foot, I have one, you know, my left foot seems to be pronating, and I'm having a lot of pain with that. Do they usually do like strapping and stuff for that? Is that what they do?
Yeah, strapping is often like one of the more common things that we, strapping is a lot of what the athletes do before and after exercise. It does work, but it's not like a good long-term solution because the tape is really hard on your feet, the adhesive. So I do use that, just not as like a first line type of therapy for it. Because you can't do it long-term. You know, only to put these, they're called low dyes, to put this on correctly. I mean, I have to do it. Like I couldn't even put it on myself. It's hard to do. I have somebody else to do it.
And I kind of did, you know, some YouTube videos or whatever, looking at some of
Oh,
those.
YouTube's great, isn't it?
Yeah, because, you know, it's like, I was trying to figure out what was going on with my foot because it just, you know, kept getting worse and worse and just kind of put that some.
It's often mechanically related. You know, it's not arthritis, it's not an injury.
So is it, I mean, surgery to repair it, or is it something, you know, it's just,
Surgery would be like an absolute last resort, you know, for treating any type of flat foot.
What's the first result?
The first treatment? Orthotics.
like that? Yeah.
Orthotics and physical therapy. Something external to you. Yes, ma'am.
What are your thoughts on reflexology?
The question was like reflexology, you know, is it good for the feet?
Could they relax your muscles or tendons?
Well, I know it feels good.
I know, but does it do anything to relieve things? No, it's just feeling good?
I think, yeah, there may be something to it, you know. I wasn't trained in Eastern medicine. I was trained at Loyola, you know, and
Half of them resistant.
they don't feel
For
good.
circulation, maybe?
No.
No?
Probably
the tendon or whatever, you can't stretch that, correct? So it's, when you stretch it, it's only temporary, is that correct?
Yeah.
You do the exercises to stretch those?
Correct.
It doesn't like a muscle,
Right.
you know, like you know,
Retraining the muscle.
right,
Yeah.
it's gonna return to what it was.
And that's really the whole goal of your back, is to get the foot back up to take the stress off that. It's not, and 99% of the time, it's all you're doing. I mean, I do surgery on the heel, you know, in kind of rare cases, you know, but some people would just say, I've dealt with this for 5 years, I don't want to deal with it anymore. Let's do the surgery, let's just get this over with. The interesting thing that the recovery from the surgery is the same as with the customer orthotics. The course of therapy is the same. So like, we can do surgery, but we don't have to.
Right.
Is all this making sense, kind of? Kind of, sort of? Yeah. This isn't really complicated. This is all mechanical. This is not, again, it's not arthritis. It's not from a fracture or an injury or anything like that. It's just from basically your arch is collapsing down, you start to lose the arch integrity. And you can start feeling it in your knees, you can feel it in your back and your hip, and you know, that's usually the secondary thing people complain about. It's like, God, my right knee's killing me, you know, and then my hip is starting to hurt, you know. It's a serious thing. Your feet are your foundation to the house. If the foundation of the house isn't good, what do you think the first and second floors are going to look like? You know, it's very simple.
Does it ever affect your hamstrings?
Oh, yeah.
It gets real tight.
Yep.
And it's all because of your feet?
Really? You mentioned arthritis at the beginning, it's one of the causes, but you just said that it's not arthritis, is that just the burden,
Correct.
the pronation?
Yes.
But arthritis can affect?
Sure. Yeah, there is a couple different arthritis that are, we call systemic arthritis, usually due to other conditions. That I usually have to take an X-ray just to make sure. It's kind of rare to see that. I'm just getting like what 99% of them are. I mean, you can see cancer in a heel that causes the same condition. You know, which is a really sad case. About 15 years ago, a husband was a patient. He brought his wife in, and she had this horrendous heel pain. And I took an X-ray. And she had to, you look at enough X-rays, you can tell what's normal and what's not normal. And I looked at it there, and I'm like, you know, I have to refer you on. I couldn't tell her what I thought it was. I just heartbroken about it. And she had chondrosarcoma. She was dead in the mouth.
What is that?
That's a bone cancer.
Bone cancer.
Chondrosarcoma. That you only see. I hope I never see it.
Is there anything you could do for hammer toe?
Oh, yeah.
Let's get down to what's bothering us here.
Well, hammer toes are a genetic condition in the foot where the toe begins to curl up at the end of the toe. Usually it gets worse as time goes on, as age goes on. But yeah, I mean, it's one of the more common surgeries that I do, actually, is hammer toes.
What causes that?
That's genetic, you know. Yeah, 99% of it is genetic. Most things in the forefoot are genetically related. We call them dominant genes, where they're passed down from one generation to the other. And they usually on the female side of the family. So if your mom had it, your grandma had it, your daughter had it. Most of the time.
And what are you doing, releasing the ligament? or something?
Yeah, there's a little bone, you know, that you suck that piece of bone and then it pulls it down nice and straight again.
Or shoes?
What's that?
Not from wearing those poor pointed shoes.
Those aggravated. Those aggravated.
Yeah, when we were young, everybody wore those shoes, those pointy toes and that, now they're all coming back in.
Oh, yeah.
I think of all these girls with their shoes and
Oh,
what's
yeah.
down the road.
Oh, yeah.
Business with the sun.
Nephew.
Another quick question, so, I'm having, you know, like, where the plantar fascia, whatever, connects to the bone, I guess there's like a lot of pain at that point.
Right.
Other than the orthotics, any recommendations to help release them? I mean, I work 12-hour shifts and I'm on my feet and like last night they hurt so bad.
Anti-inflammatories help a lot. Soaking at night in some cool water will take the stress or the swelling away. Yeah, warm water will make it swell more. Cool water soaking at night. Stretching at night or in the morning you get out of bed. I often tell people just kind of do the alphabet with your foot. You know, just kind of warm up that ligament before you step on it. You know, it's a bear, I know. You know, this, the fasciitis usually gets worse. And then it goes to the elbow.
Okay, I'm on both.
Right. Yeah, it's a bear. Oh, it's nice outside today.
It is.
Yeah. Very spring. And color. I'm sorry. You look familiar with that.
And then they said you moved out of state. You
In New Lenox. Yeah. Yeah. 22 years. Sure. Well, Al. Yeah. When was that? Like 2 years ago or something? What's that? Smaller? Really? Well, I get the impression that people live vicariously through you. They have all these exciting lives except for me. Yeah. That'll conclude it. If you have any questions or issues, I'll be glad to address them later on. I have my card right here, or if you want it. Yeah. And thank you very much, and have a good weekend.
Thank you.